the DeFUD Podcast.
We'll make your LLM secure. I had a guy say this to me this morning. I'll make your LLM secure. I'm like, how are you going to do that? Just explain it to me. Give me your elevator pitch. And 17 minutes later, he still really hadn't told me how he was going to make my LLM secure. My idea is, let's talk about what happens after you've been hacked. And we can do it in a closed room and people can be as honest and as open as they want to be. But until we actually understand all the implications of when something bad happens, not just the guessing game of this is what this book says might happen, deal with real people who've really gone through this, then you can prepare better.
Hello and welcome to the DeFUD Podcast. Today is going to be one of my favorite episodes to record, and that is because we get to highlight two amazing women trailblazers in the field of cybersecurity. Both are from MongoDB. One of them is their CISO, Lena Smart, and a member of her staff is joining us, Komi Khan, who recently just got promoted to Security Analyst Level 2. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Prior to becoming the CISO at MongoDB, Lena served as a CISO for Tradeweb, an international fintech company. And of course, before that, she was also the CIO and CISO for the New York Power Authority. So just a tremendous background and tons of experience leading security organizations. And prior to her promotion to Security Analyst level, Komi served as the Senior Executive Assistant to the CISO, and before that, the CTO for MongoDB. Prior to MongoDB, Komi also worked at VIP events and sales roles in Philadelphia and in New York, including at the Madison Square Garden. And so since you both bring equally unique perspectives to this podcast, I'd love for you to both answer some questions. Of course, first off, before we start with questions, I'm sure you all are very familiar with MongoDB, but just to recap their international presence, MongoDB was founded in 2007 by an online advertising company that was later acquired by Google. And so today, MongoDB has over 4,600 employees spanning 27 countries. Wow. And I'm sure that number is just even more since it was last quoted. And so, Komi, let's start with you, right? Tell me about your transition from EA role to a security analyst role. What and who motivated you to do it? And also, can you tell our audience about being a mentor and about venturing into cybersecurity for the first time?
Yes, definitely. First, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So first, my transition from the EA role into the security analyst role. So just backtracking a little bit, I've been at MongoDB for about 5 years now. As you mentioned, I started off as an EA to our CTO and different VP leaders with the engineering org. And I knew at one point I didn't want to be an EA anymore, and I just wasn't sure exactly what else I could do at MongoDB. And throughout just being involved in different ERGs that we have and different women in tech programs, I met Lena, and just working with other C-suites as well, we were able to develop a really close relationship. And Lena and I would consider us friends this day. But yeah, so as one thing led to another, and Lena's EA role opened up in her org. And I reached out and just asked if that's something that I can transition to. Not only did I want to support her, but also because I knew within her org, she had different positions that could be available that weren't highly technical as they are within the engineering org. So by the grace of Lena and MongoDB, they were able to move me over, and we pretty much got started right away. I would say our first few intro one-on-ones we had, just basic calendar management, all of that, like EA stuff. And then got into, okay, what do you want to do with your career? What are the next steps we should take? And all of that. So Lena being a great leader, manager, and mentor to me just really helped motivate me and made me feel empowered and inspired, honestly. Okay, someone actually is looking out for me that has power and can help me do something more here than just being an EA. And I loved being an EA, but I just knew I wanted to do something more. As we're working through thinking about myself, what I want to do, and just thinking about my future, I took a SANS bootcamp course, the Foundations of Cybersecurity, which was very difficult. It was like being in college all over again, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 p.m., just sitting in a hotel classroom, learning all of these textbooks. But at the end was an exam that you took. And when you passed the exam, you were certified. So I spent a lot of time studying. Lena, again, let me take days off of work to study for this exam. And in the spirit of intellectual honesty, I actually failed the first time. But Lena, again, I went to her and I told her, and I was so upset with myself. And she just brushed it off of my shoulder for me. She was like, Komi, you did the best that you can. Don't get down about it. Just try again. And actually, I'm getting chills just thinking about it, of how much that meant to me, of just putting so much pressure on myself, and just being so grateful that Lena gave me the opportunity to even do this and to feel like I had failed her and myself. She gave me the motivation to go back and do it again. And of course, I passed, thank God. I think there's so many lessons that I learned from that as well, just about failure. And failure is just inevitable, and just not giving up on yourself, even if you do fail. And I give so much of that thanks to Lena for making me feel that way. And just something within myself that I carry to this day as well. It's really okay to fail. So after I passed, I felt this level of confidence. Okay, I can actually do this. And I felt really excited. This is actually could be a reality for me, not just something that we've been talking about for months. So throughout this time, Lena also hired Kurt McKenzie, who is our now director of physical security and a retired FBI agent. So when I met him, he started planning out what initiatives that he has for MongoDB as a global company, and what he wants to do within the physical security space. And after I would take a few months of him being here, he got right to work right away. And he had a few different job descriptions that he had, and one of them was a security analyst role. And so we brought it to Lena. Could this work out for me? I was really interested in the role, and I like all the stuff that he had, stuff that I could learn, stuff that I could bring to the table, the skills I already had myself. And between three of us, yeah, this could be great. Again, thanks to Lena and her magic, and just for the opportunity. Every step that I had to get to this point was just from the opportunity that MongoDB and Lena gave me, and also for them believing in me and then allowing me to believe in myself when I didn't always have that, and to keep pushing me forward. So when you talk about what motivated me, that definitely motivated me, having someone a real mentor in my corner, and also working for a company that I felt empowered, where I could do something different, and they were going to be there to support me along the way. I think one thing led to another, and I would call it working hard, luck, serendipity, all of these wonderful things that just really happened for me in the right time, in the right place. And I was able to move over and be a security analyst now. So still fresh. It's been just about a month or a month and a half, but I've just been learning so much. And it's been such a great experience so far.
Wow, what a tremendous journey. And I think actually when things don't go our way the first time, that's when true character comes from, right? But now I want to hear from Lena on the other side. What did mentorship mean to you as Komi was going through this journey? And what are all the ways, and I know you're extremely active on LinkedIn and encouraging women and underrepresented groups to enter the field of security. Describe your passion for us.
When I first met Komi, I realised that she was much more than just an EA. I started my life as a secretary, as a typist, an office junior, many years ago, before you were both even twinkles in the sky. And I saw how people treated us, treated women, and treated people who weren't technical, didn't have a degree. I left school when I was 16, I don't have a degree. And it really irked me that people thought they had power over me or whatever because I wasn't qualified or I was female. And I just remember thinking to myself, I never ever want to be like this as a manager. And so I wasn't. I tried very hard to be equal with all my staff. But when people like Komi come along, it's special. You just see that. She mentions that she did the boot camp. I tried to do that exam. Just one of the test exams. And I'm like, oh, good luck with that. For her to do it, even the second time was brilliant. You could have failed it 20 times. I'd still have been happy. The fact that you did it the first time, it was a good dry run. The second time you passed, I knew you would pass. It's a no-brainer for you. You're an intelligent person. But I think it was also important to me to show other people in the company that if you work hard and if you apply yourself, there's a way out of being an EA. Now, I'm not in any way demeaning anyone who wants to be an EA. Good luck to them. That's great. I just think there's more to life than managing someone's calendar and someone else's life, someone else's business life. And I saw that Komi could do a lot more than that. And so I wanted to give her that opportunity. And I did the same for the person whose job she actually took over as EA. There was another lady in that position who moved on to another role. And so I think it's good to have this kind of conveyor belt, if you like, of folks who are coming into a role like an EA, where you can really understand their mindset. They can understand how I work, how the team works. You don't have to get into technical things. It's more important to me to learn how someone learns and understands than a bit of paper that says they can add 2 + 2. Who cares? So I think it's been really important to me. I was the executive sponsor for the Mentor Her program here as well. And that gave me a lot of impetus to help folks try and move out of where they are and into something more interesting. You mentioned that it's very hard for women to be in tech, really. And that's such a shame, because some of the smartest people I know are women in tech, and they're kind and they have empathy, and they don't have some of the, let's say, sociopathic tendencies that I've had to deal with in the past. They are very much more on an even keel. And I think someone like Komi being able to work her way up the ranks and maintain her level of professionalism, hardworking, understanding, intellectual honesty, I think that's just incredible. So I'm so proud of her, and I'm proud of all my team, but especially Komi. She's great. She's different in a good way.
I can feel just the dynamic and the chemistry, right, between the two of you. And this is where I want to do a shout out to actually all of MongoDB's female mentors, because actually a couple of years ago during the pandemic, my nonprofit, Advancing Women in Tech, she ran a mentoring program with rising directors and senior directors from MongoDB. And part of the objectives there was to largely what you both articulated, building confidence, right? Knowing that someone's got your back, someone's there to support you, right? As you try out new things, as you take risks, not knowing if you're going to succeed or not succeed. And from that program, I'm still getting emails and notes from folks of they've got promotions, or they just got a raise, or they were able to even actually lateral outside the company into a bigger role. So all of that is amazing. And that's the flywheel effect that we truly need here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important with people like with yourself, Nancy, who's an absolute brilliant human being, just have to say that. But what you're doing for the women in tech movement as well, I think is really important, and it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. I think I'm definitely seeing more positive movement now in the mentoring of underrepresented groups in general, but there's still a long ways to go. And I think having one woman talking to another woman, I think there's a lot of barriers broken down, especially in tech already, because we're like unicorns as it is. So it's like when you go to AWS reInvent and the women's bathrooms are always empty, which is awesome because there's so few of us there. But when you see another woman in the crowd, it's, oh, hi. There's like instant recognition. There's a woman in tech. That's awesome. And so I think what you're doing is really important. And then what I've been trying to do at MongoDB for the past 5 years is just give people an opportunity to see that being in a particular role shouldn't hold you back. You're only holding yourself back. If I can be raised in the projects of Glasgow, having left school on my 16th birthday, and ended up being the CISO of a tech company in New York, that's pretty interesting to me. I think that a lot of people just hold themselves back. And I think Komi was doing that a wee bit herself as well. When she first started, she was very shy and she didn't really know what she wanted to do. And I just sat her down one day, because you know me, Nancy, I'm very blunt, very open. And I said, look, what do you want to do? Do you want to be an EA for the rest of your life?
My favorite traits of you, Lena.
I remember sitting her down and said, if you want to be an EA for the rest of your life, you go for it. And you can be the best EA that you can be. I said, but really what would be helpful to me would be if you would actually be the bridge between security and the EAs, and you can translate my Scottish gibberish security nonsense into something that the EAs can understand. And that was my sideways backdoor method of getting Komi into a more interesting role, because she was the bridge between security and the EA world. She was able to say, this is why Lena needs this information, because you're an EA, you can speak that language. And the reason that I wanted her to do that was twofold. One, to give her confidence and show her that she could do it. But secondly, most importantly, is people tend to forget that EAs have more access to in the company than anybody else. I used to be one. Komi used to be one. The level of information that we have, credit card information, lots and lots of personal information about the boss. And if I'm a bad guy hacker, I'm not going to try and hack the CEO or the CISO. I'm going to go after their EA. because there's a good chance that they won't have that level of security around them. And so Komi was also instrumental in helping me work with a company called CyberWa. And CyberWa actually builds in that extra level of security for executives, but also we wanted to expand it for executive assistants. I always use the house analogy. There's no point in having this massive house with all these locks and things around it if you leave the front door open and anyone's got the key, and your EA has got that key, and she can leave the front door open unless she's protected as well. So I think we made the EAs understand how important their jobs were and how important their presence was, and the trust that the company has in them, how that should be received. And Komi just ran with that. She just ran with that program. She expanded it. We expanded using CyberWa. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Komi, you're still maintaining that bridge between security and the EA world, because you're still in it. You still know everybody there.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I was like, add on to everything that you said. And I was just laughing at when you talk about, I was really quiet and shy because I was. And I think, Lena, you might have been like that too when you were younger. So I think we're very similar. Also very different, but also very similar. And I think that for me, having someone like Lena, who was very direct and has pulled me out of getting out of my own way to, okay, like you can do more. Like, what more do you want to do? And I think also, I know Lena talks about this a lot in various outlets, is imposter syndrome. And I think working for a tech company, but I went to school for psychology. So like my background is not tech at all. So I think I always felt this severe imposter syndrome that was debilitating. Like, I can't do anything else. I know I want to, I just don't know what to do. And it's perhaps like Lena saw that and was like, no, you can do more. And I think that just leads to like what you were saying, Nancy, earlier about having diversity of people of different backgrounds coming into the cyber world as well. Because I think, and also Lena said, just having different women leaders where you high five, like we just understand each other off the bat. And I think having a psychology background helps me even more. Not only am I a woman, but also just knowing how people think and why they think that way and why they operate that way, just human behavior in itself, I think has also helped me become a better EA. And then also helped me with people like Lena, who can see different skills that I have that just may not be written on paper, but just meeting me and observing me and knowing these things, okay, she can do more. So yeah, it all worked down to one. Everything that you guys were saying both helps with just moving forward in any general direction too.
And I love hearing the just juxtaposition of both of your experiences. They're very similar. And I love how, you're using your background to also propel others forward. So now I want to dive a little bit deeper into how the two of you are driving forward the security strategy and thought leadership for MongoDB. So as we talked about in the beginning, MongoDB is a household name. It's been around for 16 years now, since it first launched as horizontally scalable compared to SQL databases at the time. And now as more people are focused on AI and VectorDBs taking up a lot of people's mind share, and MongoDB has its own offering there, right? What kind of effect has this shift in attention had on MongoDB's culture and also strategy? And how has it affected how you all as security professionals think about security?
So in terms of obviously MongoDB vector search is very important, very interesting. AI in general, I was speaking to a couple of AI folks this morning, but people who are working at AI companies, and a lot of it is smoke and mirrors at the moment still. It's a year old really, and I just think there's an awful lot of smoke and mirrors out there. I think our mindset as a company is we're trying to get ahead of market. We're trying to go to market with different solutions. And from a security standpoint, we've had to be very careful in balancing innovation versus security. And I'm sure every CISO in the world can sympathize with me in that you've got marketing and product and sales champing at the bit saying, okay, we really want to go to market with this AI thing. And I'm like, is it secure? Are you getting information out that's actually important and reasonable and not hallucinatory? Blah, blah, blah. A lot of the times the answers are, oh, we're not really sure. So I think in terms of what MongoDB is doing, we have a very concrete strategies where we want to move forward within the security world around AI. Within my team, we've actually got a couple of people whose sole job is to look at the security of the internally created applications using AI. And then also making sure that any third parties that we're onboarding with an AI flavor have had the appropriate security background checks, that we're onboarding them quickly to keep the innovation moving, but not that it leaves us in a vulnerable position. And one of the first things we did when ChatGPT came out was myself and the head counsel actually put a memo out the next day and said, and we made it as simple English as possible. We said, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and here's the implications if you do something. And it just set the guardrails as to what people could do and couldn't do around AI. And I think that set us in a good place. In terms of the actual vector database world, you can obviously read about it on the MongoDB website. From a cultural standpoint, there's definitely more of a push from marketing, sales, etc., to understand what the customers want. And I guess what I'm seeing from my CISO role when I'm speaking to customers is they just want it to be secure. It's put bells and whistles on it if you want, but please just make it secure. And I think, going back to my smoke and mirrors, that's a lot of the things that I'm hearing from the AI companies out there just now is, we'll make your LLM secure. I had a guy saying this to me this morning, I'll make your LLM secure. I'm like, how are you going to do that? Just explain it to me. Give me your elevator pitch. And 17 minutes later, he still really hadn't told me how he was going to make my LLM secure. So I think the focus in AI is great. The focus in vector database is fantastic for MongoDB. And I think where we're going as a company is absolutely spot on. But I do think we just need to keep an eye on what the rest of the market's doing. It's so fast shifting that I'm worried in some cases that some companies are throwing so much money at these AI solutions. And then when they sit back, it's what we actually created. I mean, what can we actually sell here? And so I think MongoDB's really got the right idea in terms of its offerings. We've been very pragmatic. We've taken a very pragmatic approach, still trying to keep innovation in place, but also trying to keep security in place. So it's just this constant juggling act. And I think how it's affected my job as a security professional is you wake up and you just don't know what's going to come down the pipe tomorrow in terms of AI. We know the bad guys are just as good as using it as the good guys. And so what's next? Deepfake ransomware, spear phishing with deepfake video. I mean, we've seen them all. The audio, the video, the deepfake videos, which are absolutely terrifying. And I think your next question is probably going to be what keeps me up at night, because that's what everybody asks. But you could ask that to Komi first. I'd be interested to see what keeps her up at night.
All right, Komi, we're going to put you on the hot seat. What keeps you up at night? And we'll see if that's the same thing as what keeps Lena up at night.
I think what keeps me up at night is like nothing work related. I honestly try so hard, and I feel like Lena like preaches this a lot. I don't know if she uses it in her own life, and I think as a CISO she can't. But I try really hard that when I close my laptop, I don't think about work. Unless there's something that's pressing, unless there's something urgent, unless Lena slacks me and something needs to urgently get done. I really try hard to disconnect. And I've read so many books about different leaders, and you talk about thought leadership, and so many of them have said if you're able to do that, it's such a great way to have a work-life balance and to keep your sanity. And so I really feel bad that this is my answer, because I feel like it's probably not very helpful, or maybe not even answering your question fully. But yeah, I really just feel like I don't let work keep me up at night unless it's something that's really urgent or something that's really going to cause a huge like problem or something. And when ChatGPT first came out, I think what kept me up at night is more like how that would affect our jobs, I would say. And the rise of AI, how that would affect our jobs in the future. I guess I'm like one of the only people who feels like AI is going to help our jobs. If some people think that AI is going to take over and we'll have no employment. And I think perhaps AI could take over very junior level jobs, like perhaps junior level, like comms people or marketing people who are just writing memos and stuff like that. I think perhaps, yes, it could maybe take over that, and they could write out memos, make decks, do all of that type of work, and just have a senior person just review it. But I think as you just move up, I don't think that robots or AI can, it's also like my psychology brain thinking, I don't know if they can really take over like people and just what like a human brain can bring. So yeah, so I guess I'm more just excited, interested to see what AI can bring, but how it can help us. I had this aha moment, I think when ChatGPT first came out, and like Lena and the security team, okay, how can we let people use this at work to help themselves, but also not put proprietary information out there? And we created our own AI bot of some sort in our Slack. And I remember someone in a long thread or in a big, there was like 20 people in like a Slack channel. And someone just tagged our bot and was like, summarize this thread. And within a second, it was just all the high level bullet points of what an entire thread was in this Slack channel. And I think I even Slacked Lena and I was like, oh my God, did you just see that? That was so cool. And so, yeah, I think I am more just on the excited side of it. So in the very beginning of the whole AI ChatGPT phenomenon, but it was just, I saw it like with my own eyes. Wow, this could have taken someone like an hour or two to read all of this like back and forth and have to parse through it all. And just this little AI bot did it in a second. And it was just so efficient. And so that makes me excited.
All right, your turn, Lena. What about you?
What keeps me up just now is the worry that there's an awful lot of people in the security industry who are thinking of leaving the security industry because of the regulations that are coming down the pike, the SEC going after SolarWinds, and so much responsibility and accountability on one person in one company, when a lot of the times they don't actually have all of the security people reporting to them, but they're still responsible if something goes wrong. So I've been talking to a lot of CISO friends recently, and there's a definite shift, and that is really worrisome to me, that more and more people are going to be leaving as CISOs. They'll probably still remain in the security world in some shape or form, but there's a lot of people who are very interested in what's going to happen with the SEC, with SolarWinds, and I just think we're in a pretty dangerous place just now if we start losing the brain trust over cybersecurity. I think that would be insane. So that's the first thing that keeps me awake. And then the second thing is ransomware, and just the proliferation and the absolute ingenuity of the bad guys around ransomware and what they can do. I was in London last week meeting with some customers and met with a couple of them, and their biggest fear is ransomware. And they were asking, what's the best way that MongoDB can help with ransomware? And I said, obviously, encrypt everything that you can, queryable encryption, and then also think about multi-cloud. If you've got an instance in AWS, an instance in GCP, and an instance in Azure, if the bad guy hits your AWS instance with ransomware, okay, it's encrypted, so they can't do anything with it anyway. And then you just fail over to one of your other instances. So I'm very much simplifying a supremely technical architectural challenge, but it is there, depending on how important your data is. So I know that Mongo is definitely thinking about these things, but I am just seeing more and more sophistication, terrifyingly so, on taking 3 seconds of someone's voice online. Probably not my accent. I would like to see them deep fake that. But taking 3 seconds of someone's voice and being able to have a whole conversation around that snippet is really worrying to me. And I think it's got to be a mixture of technology and learning, humans being taught somehow to discern this is not real. And I don't know how we're going to do that. That'll be a real challenge. Maybe that's something we can work on, Nancy. Change the world.
There's a lot of VC dollars going around for
just buy nancylena.komi.ai. Well, that's it. There you go.
That's how one of the companies was formed. They took the first initials out of everyone's first name, Dig Security.
NLK.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's available.
Isn't that how RSA title was
Yes.
formed? All of their initials?
Ron Rivers, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
there is
that definitely keeps me awake, is people who are going to be leaving this industry because they don't like what's happening in it. And then secondly, the knock-on effect that's going to have. And then thirdly, ransomware.
And you spoke about a founder pitching you LLM security, I assume is one of the 30 companies now out in that category doing just that. What are some technologies that maybe you are super excited to get your hands on?
Komi, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I would say, because I'm like more hyper focused in my new role right now, there are a lot of new technologies coming out with video management systems that are way upgraded from what you would see in like old movies of some security guy sitting in a room with a million TVs. There's so many systems out there now that are all cloud-based, and they can all manage access controls between video cameras and access cards and badges and unlocking doors remotely, all this stuff that I feel like we didn't have for so long, or at least I'm just getting exposed to a lot of it now. And I just actually sat in a vendor call earlier today with Kurt and the rest of the team with a company that we're going to use for, I think, for our new Boston office that we're opening up. And I was just blown away by all the little intricacies that it can do and how much we can do remotely, and that the fact that it is all cloud-based. And I was just like, wow, this is so interesting. So when I saw your question of what am I excited to try, I would just say more cloud-based VMS systems that just allow you to have full control over the physical security spaces of offices. I know within the work from home format, people have, I think, offices or companies are now trying to just do remote work. But I think now having different systems like this, making people feel safe, can also be beneficial to allowing people to go back to offices. And obviously, everything that's happening in the world, people may feel unsafe as well. So I think with new technologies like this could bring pure benefit to people being back in office and just having that connectedness with their employees and coworkers, and also just having a safe space for everyone to work and where anyone can access it remotely. Like us as security professionals within the physical security space, I could access our camera systems that are in Paris, but I'm sitting in America. So yeah, I think that was just so fascinating to me. Wow, I can unlock this door in our London office from just a click of a button right here, on my computer. Yeah, so yeah, just the technologies in that regard makes me really excited to see what more they can do.
That's an exciting perspective on physical security. And how about you, Lena?
Back to our old friend AI, I am interested in learning more about threat detection and response using AI. I think if the bad guys are going to use it against us, use it against them. And so I think AI and ML algorithms, we know these are increasingly being used to enhance the threat detection and response capabilities. And I think with just the amount of data that they can ingest and then spit out, here's a possible 0 day, here's rather than relying on I wouldn't call them old-fashioned Splunk sims, but they are at the moment, really. I'm really interested to see what the businesses are going to come out with in terms of AI-powered threat detection and response. Can we actually stop the bad things happening before they happen by using AI appropriately?
And that enters the arms race, right? That everyone's
yes, exactly.
More sophisticated.
Yeah.
So you both sound very well informed about, to your point, Lena, the changing regulations, and Komi, you mentioned, next generation video management systems, right? How much time daily, I'm just curious, do you spend reading security blogs or newsletters or articles and watching videos about cybersecurity? What channels or maybe websites would you recommend our listeners here and audience pay attention to?
Do you want me to go first, Lena?
Sure.
I actually subscribe to the Hacker News. I'm sure everyone that's in this field knows about that. And they send me emails every day. So I was every day when I open my email, I just read whatever news that's out there, good or bad. And then also Lena actually has a boatload of books in her office, and she's given me a few of them. So I have just some books that she's given me that I've read throughout as well. So I guess for me, my outlets are just anything that I've subscribed to, but the Hacker News is probably the main one that I read. And then the books that Lena has given me. And then also within our Security Champions program, they send out different monthly letters, and I'm part of the program, so I attend their events as well. And they send out stuff all the time. And even within the Slack channel, people are constantly posting articles from different news outlets or anything new that's happened or any urgent thing that's happened. So I think being on my computer and being alert, I'm constantly getting information just thrown at me of what's happening in the world.
Very cool. So I read the register.co.uk because I'm British and like sarcasm. It's actually a pretty good website, but quite a few scoops. Of course, Mr. Krebs is always excellent, an excellent source of the scoops. And what else do I do? Slashdot. Yeah, just anything to get my hands on, really. And yeah, Hacker News, obviously. I think it's almost religious at this point, having to do that. But yeah, I read voraciously. I read anything, and I devour cybersecurity books and books on anything.
I know for a fact you also like books on British monarchy, but we'll save that for the footnotes here. And we talked about a wide variety of topics today. So ranging from needing more diversity in the field to what's happening with AI to what are some new cool solutions and tooling that we're seeing out there. What are some topics that you think are not getting enough attention out there in the security world?
I'll take this one because it's near and dear to my heart. So as people who are listening to this podcast are likely aware, MongoDB got hacked in December, and we had to go through that awful process of working out what happened, cleaning it up, dusting ourselves off and starting again. And I think we handled it very well. We had prepared for it, but nothing really prepares you for when you get that slack on a Wednesday night, on a snowy December, to say, we think we've been hacked. We think it's X, something bad has happened. I was surprised to find kind of the lack of support, but also the outpouring of support from the CISO world. So there was one camp was like, I've never been hacked and your company is stupid because they were hacked. Okay. But the majority of people were, we feel your pain, we've gone through this, how can we help? Which was so refreshing and so welcomed. But I think people just aren't talking enough about, and not openly enough, because it's difficult. You need to get the balance right of what information can you share so you don't leave yourself vulnerable. I think there needs to be more coverage on how to deal with the aftermath of a hack, because it's going to happen to every company. It might be happening to the company they don't even know it's happening yet. And it just seems to be this almost like a dirty little secret. And it's weird. I was talking to someone just about this 3 hours ago, a good friend from MIT, and we were talking about topics for a panel that we want to do in a few months. And my idea is, let's talk about what happens after you've been hacked. And we can do it in a closed room and people can be as honest and as open as they want to be. But until we actually understand all the implications of when something bad happens, not just the guessing game of this is what this book says might happen, deal with real people who've really gone through this, then you can prepare better. Because I think just now it seems to be almost a philosophical or an academic exercise for some CISOs. If I do these 5 things and I say I'm prepared for an event and then the bad thing happens, we'll be prepared because we did these 5 things. Yeah, good luck with that. So I think there has to be more open discussion around, first of all, the psychological health of your team during this, because we had people, I worked 38 hours straight. That's not healthy. And then I had to go in front of customers. Even less healthy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that we're doing wrong when it comes to dealing with the aftermath of a hack. And I think if we had more open discussion around it, I think people would be more apt to be like, all right, now I can prepare better. But just now, anyone who's not gone through it, if they're trying to talk to a CISO who has gone through it, that CISO, like me, has to be very cagey, because we can't share a lot of information that happened because it's proprietary, or it could be damaging. And I just think it's a catch-22. We want to help people, but we don't want to leave ourselves vulnerable. So that's where I think we need to have more discussion. Probably not public coverage, but definitely more discussion behind doors about how can we work together and help each other, rather than having certain people in the community bash others when something bad happens to them. I was disgusted with some people during this process. I really was. And they are on my hit list forever. And unfortunately, there was a couple of the women in there. That really saddened me.
Yeah, given that it's something that happens, to your point, to a lot of the best laid plans out there, right? There needs to be more support. And Komi, I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Just to piggyback on what Lena said, I think it's taboo. People don't talk about the quote unquote bad stuff that happens. And I think when you're actually in a situation where we were hacked or whatever it was, and you receive a Slack, okay, like now we can do all this stuff. Like we have a business continuity team and we have all the correct protocols and policies. But to Lena's point, when it's actually happening, sometimes it's hard to go back and to think about all those things, or to go, like you're in scramble mode a little bit. So I think if it was more talked about and more like publicized as a quote unquote normal thing, or this could happen to you, it I think brings down the walls a little bit and like the pressure a little bit as well, where we're able to all think clearly and consciously and not just thinking through panic mode. And to be honest, even through Hacker News, all these things, they will like public, oh, this company got hacked, whatever it may be, but they'll never have the aftermath. They'll never share like what this company did afterwards, or how they cleaned it up, or how it, like how it affected the team psychologically, or what did the leaders do? It's always just like the negative news. It's negative. It's never the positive stuff. Yeah. So to Lena's point, it would be nice to actually people report. I guess that's news in general. It's always negative, but to actually show the positive of, okay, here's what we did. Here's the lessons learned from this, making it more normalized and just okay to talk about. It's almost like in the psychology world, trauma. Mental health has just become an okay thing to talk about publicly and people are more accepting of it. So something in that same regard is like a far comparison. But yeah, just like making it okay to talk about and not having so much shame around it and just be like, yeah, this happened and here's what we did. And it can happen to anybody. Like you can learn from us. We can work together. Like all of those normal human basic skills, I think is something that we could work towards for sure.
Yeah. Almost like a therapy group for CISOs. I should set that up.
CISOs Anonymous. Yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go, Lena.
Sit in a circle. My name is Lena and I'm a recovering CISO.
It's been a fantastic, we covered so much in this episode. And I want to leave our audience with a word of wisdom from each of you, which is for a woman or person of underrepresented group who wants to break into cybersecurity, same as you have, Komi. What advice do you have for them?
Lena, you go first.
No, you go first. All right, fine. I'll go first. The advice is, if you want to do it, don't let anybody hold you back. There's so much free information out there that you can learn on your own. I've said this many times. I would rather hire someone into my team who, like Komi, has just this innate sense of wanting to learn and understand and push herself forward, rather than some of the people I've interviewed, degrees from famous universities. I wouldn't give them the time of day. I would rather employ someone who is interested in learning and who's gone out and taught themselves and done things like the SANS bootcamp than spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a degree in computer science and they couldn't really explain to you what a SIM is or what shift left means or what encrypted data could look like. And these are some of the simple questions I asked during interviewing. It's, wow, how much did you spend on your degree? Can you get your money back? So yeah, my advice is if you want to be in cybersecurity, be in it. There's nothing stopping you except yourself. It's absolutely, if I can do it, anybody can do it. There you go.
I think you're both also very special ladies.
Komi?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing for me that I had to overcome and what I would advise that I would share with other people, male or female, is don't let fear run your life. I think just in a professional and personal setting, I think so many times we get so fearful of perhaps failing or perhaps not being good enough or perhaps not fitting in, whatever it may be, that we second guess ourselves or second guess our intuition or second guess what we want. And I think that if we can overcome our own fears and get out of our own way, but really just overcome our own fears, I think that potentials just open up for you and the door just opens up for you in so many different ways. I couldn't even imagine my first day at MongoDB to where I am now. I never would have thought in a million years. And like throughout my 5 years, I was definitely like, I had so much fear. Like I still have a little bit of it, but I think the difference is I don't let the fear make my cognitive decisions. I just sit with the fear and I talk through it. I spend a lot of time alone. I live alone. So I'm here all alone all the time. And I just have learned to feel comfort with the fear that I have and just knowing that my brain is going to take me and the support I have is going to take me. And it does. And I persevere every single time. So I would say if you can learn to conquer your own fears and not let it get in your way of doing something you really want to do, then you can achieve anything.
Wow, what an uplifting conversation. This has been truly a pleasure to get to know each of you better in a way that, frankly, Lena and you and I have had many conversations, but there's some things new that I learned about you today and continue to go kill it out there. So nice to have you both on the DeFUD episode. And for the audience out there, if you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, please subscribe to this podcast. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you,
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you for tuning in to the DeFUD Me podcast. For more hot takes and content, please leave a kind comment and click the buttons below to like, share, and subscribe. Doing so really means a lot.